The stars looked cold and distant through the window of the bridge. Captain Day stared at them while his hands gripped the chair arms. His ship, the new Busan, was not built for war. It was a merchant vessel, designed to carry goods from one planet to another. But today it felt more like a coffin floating through space. "Captain," Bora called from her station. Her voice was tight with worry. "The Alterian fleet is moving closer. They have us surrounded." Day looked at the main screen. 47 warships hung in space around his small convoy like hungry sharks. Each Alterian ship was 3 times larger than his biggest cargo hauler. Their weapons could turn his entire convoy into dust in seconds. "How long until we reach the neutral zone?" Dai asked. Bora checked her readings. 2 hours at current speed, but they won't let us get that far. The convoy was small. Besides his own new Busan, there were 2 other cargo ships and 2 escort vessels. The escorts had some weapons, but they were nothing compared to what the Alterians carried. Captain So Young commanded 1 escort ship called Daegu Defender. Captain Hyun Sik ran the cargo hauler Incheon's Hope. All of them were traders, not soldiers. "Captain," Mina spoke up from the communications desk. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. "The Alterian flagship is sending a message." "Put it on screen." The display changed to show an Alterian commander. The alien had green scales and yellow eyes that seemed to look right through Dai. Its mouth was full of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the translation system made its voice sound cold and mechanical. "Human vessels, this is War Admiral Velthar of the 3rd Battle Fleet. You have entered Alterian space without permission. Surrender now or be destroyed." Dai stood up slowly. He had dealt with Alterians before. They were proud and thought humans were weak and stupid. "War Admiral, we are just passing through. Our destination is the neutral trading station. We mean no harm to your territory." Velthar made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans always mean no harm. Yet you spread through space like a disease. Your kind takes what does not belong to you. We are following established trade routes. Check your records. These paths have been agreed upon by the Galactic Trade Council. The Council's rules mean nothing here. This is Alterian space and you are not welcome." The screen went dark. Dave felt sweat on his forehead. He had hoped to avoid this. The Alterians had been getting more aggressive lately. They wanted to push humans out of this part of space. "Captain," Teho's voice came over the ship's internal communications. The engineer sounded worried. "They're charging their weapons, all of them." Day looked at the tactical display. Red dots showed where the Alterian ships were positioned. Energy readings showed their weapons were getting ready to fire. His convoy was trapped in the middle. "Contact the other ships," he ordered Mina. "Emergency meeting." Within minutes, the faces of his fellow captains appeared on smaller screens around the bridge. Captain So Young looked angry. Her short hair was messy and her uniform was wrinkled. "D, we need to fight our way out. My ship has enough firepower to take down at least 2 of theirs." Captain Hyun Sik shook his head. He was older than them. Others with gray hair and tired eyes. "Fighting is suicide. We should surrender. Maybe they'll let us go if we cooperate." "They won't," So Young snapped. "Alterians don't take prisoners. They see us as pests." Day was about to respond when another voice joined the conversation. "Excuse me, captains. This is Jinwoo. May I join your convoy?" The captains looked confused. None of them recognized the Mina checked her readings. "There's another ship approaching, small frigate. Registration shows Soul's Pride." On the screen appeared a young man with a friendly face. His clothes looked like work coveralls stained with grease and oil. Behind him, they could see what looked like a ship's engine room, but it was messy and filled with spare parts. "Who are you?" Day asked. "Jinwoo. I'm a salvage operator. Was working in the asteroid belt when I saw your situation. Thought you could use an extra ship." So Young laughed, but not in a good way. "What can you do against 47 warships? Your ship looks like it's held together with tape and hope." Jinwoo smiled. "She's not pretty, but she's reliable. Sometimes, old ships surprise you." Day studied the man's face. There was something calm about him that didn't match the situation. Most people would be terrified facing an Alterian battle fleet. But Jinwoo seemed relaxed, almost bored. What kind of weapons do you have? Day asked. Standard mining equipment mostly. Plasma cutters, demolition charges. Nothing fancy. Hyunsik groaned. This gets worse and worse. Now we have a scrap dealer, offering to help us fight a war. I appreciate the offer, Day said carefully, but this is dangerous. You should leave while you can. Jinwoo's smile didn't change. Can't do that, Captain. Wouldn't be right to abandon fellow humans. Besides, I know these systems better than most. Might be helpful. Before anyone could argue, alarms started sounding on every ship. The Alterian fleet was moving. The massive warships changed position, forming a perfect circle around the human convoy. Their weapons were fully charged now, creating an orange glow that lit up the darkness of space. They're preparing to attack, Bora reported. Her voice was shaking now. War Admiral Velthar's image appeared on the main screen again. Humans, you have 30 minutes to surrender. After that, we will destroy you all. This is your only warning. The transmission ended, leaving the human, captain staring at each other in silence. 30 minutes, Hyunsik whispered. That's not enough time to run. It's enough time to fight, So Young said, but her voice lacked conviction. Day looked at each of his fellow captains. These people trusted him to keep them safe. Their crews had families waiting for them back on Earth and the colonies. He couldn't let them die, but he also couldn't see a way out. Jinwoo, he said finally, you're welcome to join us. But understand, this might be a one-way trip. The salvage operator nodded. Understood, Captain. I'll move into formation. On the tactical display, a new dot appeared as Soul's Pride joined the convoy. It was smaller than all the other ships, looking tiny compared to the Alterian warships surrounding them. Day sat back in his chair and watched the countdown timer on his screen. 29 minutes until the ultimatum expired. 29 minutes to figure out how to save his people. Outside, the Alterian fleet waited like patient hunters. Their weapons stayed charged, ready to turn the human ships into space debris. The aliens had all the advantages. More ships, bigger guns, better armor. The humans had nothing except courage and desperation. But sometimes, Day thought as he watched the mysterious Soul's Pride take position, sometimes that was enough. The countdown continued, 28 minutes and falling. Time moved slowly when Death was watching. Captain Day stared at the countdown timer on his screen. 25 minutes left. Around him, his bridge crew worked quietly, checking systems and running diagnostics. They all knew it might be the last time they did their jobs. Captain, Mina said from her station, Captain So Young wants to speak with you, private channel. Day nodded. So Young's face appeared on a small screen beside his chair. Her expression was grim. Day, we need to make a decision fast. My weapons officer says we might be able to punch through their formation if we concentrate our fire on one sector. Create a gap, then run for it. How many ships would we lose? So Young was quiet for a moment. Probably all the cargo haulers. Maybe my escort ship too. But you and one or two others might make it to the neutral zone. Day felt sick. She was asking him to sacrifice most of his people for a small chance that a few might survive. What does Hyunsik think? He still wants to surrender. Says the Alterians might show mercy if we cooperate fully. Through his main window, Day could see the nearest Alterian warship. It was massive, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Energy discharges flickered along its hull as the weapons stayed ready to fire. These ships were built for one purpose, to destroy enemies quickly and completely. There's another option, came Jinwoo's voice over the communication system. Day switched to the group channel. All the human captains could hear each other now. What option? Day asked. Let me talk to them. So Young laughed bitterly. Talk? They just threatened to kill us all. What are you going to say? I might be able to work something out. Sometimes these situations aren't as hopeless as they look. Hyunsik shook his head. His image on the screen looked tired and scared. This is insane. We should surrender now before they lose patience. No, So Young snapped. Surrendering to Alterians is the same as dying slowly instead of quickly. Day watched the argument between his fellow captains, but his attention kept returning to Jinwoo. The salvage operator sat calmly in what looked like a messy engine room. Tools and spare parts were scattered everywhere. But Jinwoo himself seemed completely relaxed, as if they were discussing the weather instead of their imminent death. Jinwoo, Dai said, what exactly do you think you can accomplish? Well, they want us gone from their territory, right? Maybe we can negotiate safe passage. Offer them something in exchange. Like what? We're cargo haulers, not diplomats. Jinwoo smiled. That same easy smile. I've been working in these systems for years. Salvage operations, asteroid mining, that sort of thing. I've mapped a lot of unexplored areas. Information like that has value. Bo-Ra looked up from her navigation station. Captain, that might actually work. Survey data from unmapped systems is worth a lot to mining corporations. The Alterians don't care about mining rights, So Young said. They care about keeping humans out of their space. Maybe. But it's worth trying, isn't it? Jinwoo's voice stayed calm and reasonable. The countdown timer showed 20 minutes remaining. War Admiral Velthar had not contacted them again, but the Alterian fleet continued to maintain its threatening formation. The massive ships hung in space like a cage of metal and weapons. Taeho's voice came through the internal communications. Captain, I'm reading some strange energy signatures from the Alterian ships. Their weapons are charged, but they're also running deep scans of our hulls. What kind of scans? Looks like they're analyzing our ship designs, maybe checking for hidden weapons or defensive systems. Day frowned. That was unusual behavior for Alterians. They typically attacked first and asked questions later. Why would they waste time scanning cargo ships that were clearly outgunned? Jinwoo, he said. Are you detecting the same thing? Yeah, I see it. They're being very thorough, scanning everything down to the molecular level. Something in Jinwoo's tone made Day pause. The salvage operator sounded almost amused, as if the Alterian scans were entertaining rather than threatening. Is there something we should know about your ship? Day asked carefully. Nothing special, just a lot of modifications over the years. When you work salvage, you pick up interesting technology. Sometimes you incorporate it into your own systems, on Ni. The tactical display. Day could see Soul's Pride among the other human ships. It was definitely the smallest vessel in the convoy. Its energy signature was lower than even the cargo haulers. If the Alterians were looking for threats, Jinwoo's ship would be the last place they'd look. Captain, Mina interrupted. Incoming transmission from the Alterian flagship. War Admiral Velthar's scaled face appeared on the main screen again. His yellow eyes seemed to glow with predatory satisfaction. Humans. 15 minutes remain. Have you decided to surrender, or will we demonstrate the futility of resistance? Day stood up. His legs felt weak, but he forced himself to appear confident. War Admiral, one of our captains would like to propose an arrangement. The alien's head tilted slightly. An arrangement? You have nothing we want. Survey data from unexplored systems, mining rights, asteroid locations, resource deposits, valuable information that could benefit Alterian operations. Velthar made that sound that might have been laughter again. You think to buy your lives with maps? How pathetic. It's worth considering, came Jinwoo's voice. He had somehow joined the transmission. His face appeared on a smaller section of the screen. The War Admiral looked at Jinwoo with obvious contempt. And who are you, human? Salvage operator. Been working these systems for years. I know locations of rare metal deposits, abandoned stations, safe routes through dangerous nebulae, information that's not in any official database. Interesting. Velthar studied Jinwoo's face. You would betray the locations of human operations to save your worthless life? I would share information about unclaimed territories to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Day watched the exchange carefully. Something felt wrong about the conversation. Jinwoo was speaking to the Alterian commander, as if they were equals. Most humans became nervous or frightened when talking to Alterians. But Jinwoo seemed completely comfortable. Very well, Velthar said after a long pause. You have piqued my curiosity. Your small ship will approach our flagship. Come alone. If your information proves valuable, perhaps we will allow some of your convoy to live." The transmission ended. Immediately, the other captains started protesting. "Jinwoo, don't do it," So Young said. "It's a trap. They'll kill you the moment you board their ship." "Maybe, but it's better than everyone dying in 15 minutes. "This is insane," Hyun-sik added. "We should just surrender as a group. At least then we might all survive." Dae felt torn. Letting Jinwoo go alone felt like abandoning the man who had volunteered to help them. But refusing might mean the death of everyone in the convoy. "Jinwoo, are you sure about this?" "I'm sure, Captain. Sometimes you have to take risks to protect people." On the tactical display, Seoul's Pride began moving away from the convoy. The small ship looked fragile as it approached the massive Alterian flagship. Dae could only imagine how Jinwoo must feel, flying alone toward a ship full of aliens who considered humans to be vermin. But when he looked at Jinwoo's face on the communication screen, the salvage operator still looked calm. If anything, he seemed more relaxed now than he had during the group discussions. "Good luck," Dae said quietly. Jinwoo smiled. "Don't worry, Captain. Everything will be fine." The words should have been reassuring, but something about the way Jinwoo said them made Dae feel even more uneasy. It was as if the man knew something the rest of them didn't. Outside, Seoul's Pride continued its approach to the Alterian flagship, while 46 other warships kept their weapons trained on the remaining human vessels. 12 minutes until the ultimatum expired. Seoul's Pride moved through space like a tiny insect approaching a sleeping giant. The Alterian flagship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of Jinwoo's small vessel. Its hull was covered with weapon batteries and sensor arrays, all of them focused on the approaching human ship. Captain Dae watched from his bridge as Jinwoo flew closer to what seemed like certain death. The other human captains remained on the group communication channel, but nobody spoke. What could they say? They were watching a man sacrifice himself for strangers. "Captain," Bo-Ra whispered. Something strange about his approach vector. Dae looked at the navigation display. Jinwoo was taking an unusual path toward the Alterian flagship. Instead of flying directly, he was moving in a gentle spiral, getting closer with each loop. "What's he doing?" So Young asked over the channel. "Maybe it's a defensive maneuver," suggested Hyun-sik. "Harder to target a ship that's not flying straight." But Dae didn't think that was it. The pattern looked deliberate, almost calculated, as if Jinwoo was timing something. Jinwoo, Dae called, "Is everything okay over there?" "Fine, Captain, just following their approach protocols. The Alterians are very specific about how they want visiting ships to move." That made sense, but Dae couldn't shake the feeling that something else was happening. On his tactical display, he could see that Seoul's Pride was running continuous scans as it moved. The small ship's sensors were working much harder than they should be for a simple approach. Aboard the Alterian flagship, War Admiral Velthar watched the human vessel approach. His tactical officer, a younger Alterian with bright green scales, looked puzzled. "Admiral, the human ship is conducting extensive scans of our formation." "What kind of scans?" "Deep structural analysis. They're mapping our hull compositions, weapon placements, shield generators. Very detailed readings." Velthar's eyes narrowed. "For a cargo hauler, this ship has sophisticated sensors. Should I order them to stop scanning?" The War Admiral considered. "This. No. Let them look. What can one primitive human ship do with that information? Besides, I'm curious to see what this salvage operator thinks he can offer us." Meanwhile, Jinwoo sat in his pilot's chair, surrounded by displays that showed far more than what the other human captains had seen. His messy engine room was actually a highly advanced control center. The scattered parts and tools were camouflage, hiding some of the most sophisticated technology in known space. "Computer analysis of Alterian fleet formation," he said quietly. A calm voice responded through his private audio system. "Scanning complete. 47 vessels identified. Tactical. Weaknesses cataloged. Defensive patterns analyzed. Command structure mapped. Weapon capabilities? Standard Alterian plasma cannons, particle beams, and torpedo systems. Technology approximately 15 years behind current Federation military standards. Jin Woo smiled to himself. The other human captains thought his ship was held together, with spare parts. In reality, Soul's Pride carried more firepower than the rest of the convoy combined. But that wasn't information they needed right now. Jin Woo, came Captain Day's voice over the communication system. The Alterians are signaling you to dock with their flagship. Understood. Moving to docking position. As his ship approached, the massive Alterian vessel, Jin Woo continued his scans. Every sensor reading was automatically recorded and analyzed. By the time he docked, he would know more about the Alterian fleet than their own tactical officers. The docking bay of the flagship was huge, designed for ships much larger than Soul's Pride. Jin Woo's vessel looked like a toy as it settled onto the deck. Alterian technicians surrounded it immediately, their own scanners trying to penetrate the ship's hull. What they found confused them. The energy signatures didn't match the ship's appearance. The hull composition included materials that shouldn't exist on a civilian vessel, and there were power readings that made no sense for a ship of this size. Admiral, the chief technician, reported to Velthar. This ship is not what it appears to be. Explain. The hull contains military-grade composites. The power core is generating energy levels far beyond what we detected from a distance. And there are weapons systems hidden throughout the ship. Velthar's claws extended slightly. Weapons systems? Concealed, but definitely present. This is not a salvage vessel, Admiral. This is a warship disguised as a civilian craft. The War Admiral felt a moment of unease. If the humans were sending disguised military vessels into Alterian space, it suggested they were more prepared for conflict than anyone had realized. But one hidden warship against 47 battlecruisers was still suicide. Monitor the ship closely, he ordered. If the human tries anything, destroy it immediately. Jin Woo stepped out of his ship wearing the same greasy coveralls he had shown the other captains. He looked around the docking bay with apparent nervousness, like a civilian overwhelmed by military technology. The acting was perfect. An escort of Alterian soldiers led him through the flagship's corridors to the command center. The aliens were tall and intimidating, their scales gleaming under the ship's lights. Their weapons were always visible, a constant reminder of human vulnerability. War Admiral Velthar waited on the bridge, surrounded by his officers. When Jin Woo entered, the alien commander studied him carefully. So, human, you claim to have valuable information. Jin Woo nodded, still playing his role as a nervous salvage operator. Yes, Admiral. I've been working these systems for 5 years. There are resource deposits that aren't on any official maps, rare elements, abandoned facilities, safe routes through dangerous regions. And you would share this information to save the lives of strangers? Human lives, yes. We may not know each other well, but we're all from the same species. I can't just watch them die when I might be able to prevent it. Velthar seemed amused by this display of human loyalty. Show me these locations. Jin Woo activated a portable display device. Star maps appeared, showing the local systems with various locations marked in different colors. To the Alterians, it looked like exactly what it was supposed to be. Survey. Data collected by a salvage operator over years of work. What they couldn't see were the additional scans Jin Woo was conducting. His portable device was connected to his ship's sensors, which were still analyzing every aspect of the Alterian flagship. Hull thickness, structural weak points, power distribution networks, command and control systems. Everything was being cataloged and recorded. Interesting, Velthar said as he studied the maps. Some of these locations are in systems we have not fully explored. The asteroid field in the Karo system has platinum deposits, Jin Woo explained. The abandoned station in Vega 7 has intact computer cores. The nebula route through Sigma Centauri cuts travel time by 30%. Each location was real, and the information was valuable. Jin Woo had done his research thoroughly. But while the Alterians focused on the star maps, they missed the fact that their own ships were being systematically analyzed and cataloged. Back on New Busan, Captain Day watched the countdown timer. 8 minutes until the ultimatum expired. Jinwoo had been aboard the Alterian flagship for nearly 20 minutes, but there was no word about the negotiations. "Captain," Mina reported, "I'm detecting unusual communication signals from the Alterian fleet." "What kind of signals?" "Internal fleet communications. They seem to be conducting some kind of technical analysis. Very detailed sensor sweeps of their own ships." Bora looked up from her station. "Why would they scan themselves?" "Maybe checking for problems," suggested Taeho over the internal communications. "If they're planning to attack, they'd want to make sure all systems are working properly." But Day felt that familiar unease again. Something was happening that he didn't understand. The Alterians were acting strangely. Jinwoo seemed too calm for the situation, and the whole negotiation felt like theater rather than genuine diplomacy. On the Alterian flagship, Jinwoo continued his presentation while his hidden systems finished their work. Every ship in the fleet had been scanned and analyzed. Weapons capabilities, defensive systems, crew complements, command structures, all of it was now stored in his ship's computer. "This information is indeed valuable," Velthar admitted, "but it does not change the fact that your convoy entered our space without permission. I understand your concern, Admiral, but surely safe passage through your territory is a fair exchange. For exclusive mining rights to these locations?" Velthar pretended to consider this. In reality, he had already decided to kill all the humans once he had extracted every bit of useful information. But the longer this human talked, the more intelligence the Alterians could gather about human operations in this region. What the War Admiral didn't realize was that the intelligence gathering was going both ways, and only one side would leave this encounter with the information they needed. The countdown timer on New Busan showed 5 minutes remaining. War Admiral Velthar stood alone on his darkened bridge, surrounded by the unconscious forms of his crew. Outside his ship's damaged windows, he could see the glowing debris that had once been the pride of the Alterian military. 46 warships, reduced to scrap metal and plasma clouds in less than 20 minutes. Seoul's pride hung in space before the flagship like a dark angel of death. The human vessel had returned to its combat configuration, all weapons visible and ready. Its hull gleamed with contained energy, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jinwoo's voice filled the silent bridge, calm and professional. "War Admiral, you're going to return to Alterian space with a very important message. Are you ready to listen?" Veltar's throat felt dry. His people had ruled this region of space for over 1,000 years. They had defeated dozens of species, conquered hundreds of worlds, built the most powerful military force in known space, and now, one human ship had destroyed it all. "I'm listening," he said quietly. "Good. First, let me explain what just happened here. Your intelligence services have been monitoring human space for years. You've cataloged our merchant vessels, our colony ships, our exploration craft. Based on what you've observed, you concluded that humanity poses no military threat to the Alterian Dominion. That assessment was obviously incorrect. Yes, it was, but the error wasn't in your observation. It was in your assumption. You saw exactly what we wanted you to see." Velthar felt a chill run through his scales. "What do you mean?" "Every human vessel you've encountered has been either civilian or lightly armed. You've never seen our actual military capabilities because we keep them hidden. Ships like Seoul's Pride are disguised as cargo haulers, mining vessels, salvage operators, even garbage scows. We have hundreds of them operating throughout the galaxy." The implications hit Velthar like a physical blow. Hundreds? The Terran Federation learned long ago that the best way to avoid war is to be so overwhelmingly prepared for it that no one dares to attack. We let other species see our civilian fleet and assume that's all we have. Meanwhile, our real military assets operate in complete secrecy. On New Busan, Captain Day listened to this conversation with growing amazement. He looked at his fellow captains on the communication screen. So Young, Hyun-sik, and the others. They all wore the same expression of shock. "Did you know?" Day asked them quietly. "I had no idea," Hyun-sik replied. "I've been hauling cargo for 15 years. I never suspected that some of the other ships I've encountered might be disguised warships. It makes sense, though, So-young said thoughtfully. How many times have you met another human captain who seemed a little too calm, a little too knowledgeable about dangerous systems? I always thought they were just experienced traders. Day thought about Jin Woo's casual confidence, his detailed knowledge of the local systems, his strange calm in the face of certain death. The signs had been there, but he had interpreted them as the behavior of an experienced salvage operator rather than a military officer. Back on the Alterian flagship, Jin Woo continued his explanation. Your attack on our convoy was what we call a field test. We needed to know how the Alterian military would react to human civilian vessels in their territory. Now we know. A test? Velthar's voice was barely a whisper. Your government has been making increasingly aggressive moves toward human space. Border violations, attacks on merchant vessels, threats against our colonies. We needed to understand your military capabilities and tactical doctrine. This engagement provided that information. Velthar realized with growing horror that his entire fleet had been sacrificed to gather intelligence. The humans had known exactly what would happen when they entered Alterian space. They had planned the whole encounter. But there's more, Jin Woo continued. This wasn't just about gathering information. It was also about sending a message. Your species, like many others, operates on the assumption that military strength is visible. You show your weapons, display your fleets, make threats to demonstrate power. Humans take a different approach. What approach? We prefer to be underestimated, let other species think we're weak and helpless. Then, if they make the mistake of attacking us, they discover too late that they've started a war they cannot win. The communication system activated again, but this time it wasn't just Jin Woo's voice. Other voices joined in, dozens of them, all speaking in calm, professional tones. War Admiral, this is Captain Sung Ho of the merchant vessel Busan Star. I'm currently operating in the Vega sector, approximately 50 light-years from your position. This is Captain Min Jun of the cargo hauler New Seoul. I'm in the Centauri trade routes. Captain Hee Jin of the mining ship Deep Explorer, operating near the galactic core. The voices continued, each one identifying themselves as the captain of a different civilian vessel in a different part of space. But Velthar now understood that none of these were really civilian ships. They were all disguised warships like Soul's Pride, scattered throughout the galaxy and ready to strike. How many? Velthar asked. Enough, Jin Woo replied. The Terran Federation has been preparing for potential conflicts for over 50 years. Every major trade route, every important system, every strategic location has at least one of our special operations vessels nearby. Most of them look exactly like the cargo haulers and passenger ships your people have been ignoring. Captain Day felt his understanding of human space completely change. Every routine convoy he had joined, every trade route he had traveled, every seemingly random encounter with other human vessels. Some of those ships had probably been part of the secret fleet. The galaxy was full of hidden human warships and nobody knew it. Now, Jin Woo continued, here's the message you're going to deliver to the Alterian government. Are you recording this? Velthar nodded, although his ship's recording systems had been damaged. He would have to remember every word. The Terran Federation hereby declares that any further aggression against human civilian vessels will result in immediate and overwhelming retaliation. We are not interested in conquering Alterian space or imposing our will on your people. We simply want to be left alone to conduct our business in peace. And if my government refuses? Then your government will discover that the third battle, fleet, was just the beginning. We have the capability to eliminate every Alterian military vessel in space within 72 hours. Your homeworld's defense platforms, your orbital shipyards, your space stations, all of them can be destroyed before your leadership even realizes they're under attack. Velthar believed him. After witnessing the destruction of his fleet, he had no doubt that humans possessed the weapons to carry out such threats. However, Jin Woo added, we prefer cooperation to conflict. The Terran Federation is prepared to offer the Alterian Dominion a formal treaty of non-aggression. We will Respect your territorial boundaries if you respect ours. Our merchant vessels will avoid your space unless specifically invited. Your military forces will not interfere with human-civilian traffic in neutral systems. And if my government agrees to this treaty, then this incident will be classified as a tragic misunderstanding. The destruction of your fleet will be attributed to a catastrophic accident, perhaps a reactor failure that spread through your formation. Your government can save face, and both our species can avoid a war that would benefit no one. It was a generous offer, considering that the Alterians had been the aggressors. Velthar realized that the humans were giving his people a way out of the situation without admitting defeat. "I will deliver your message," he said finally. "Good. Your ship's navigation systems have been repaired. You have enough power to return to Alterian space, but not enough to do anything else. Don't try to contact other Alterian vessels along the way. Your communication systems will be monitored. Don't attempt to scan or analyze the debris field. There's nothing left to learn from it. Just go home and deliver the message exactly as I've given it to you." Sol's Pride began to change again, its hull sections retracting and concealing the weapon arrays. Within minutes, it had returned to its original appearance as a battered salvage vessel. Only the energy signature remained different, and even that was fading as the ship powered down its military systems. "Captain Day." Jinwoo's voice returned to its original friendly tone. "Sorry about the delay. Ready to continue to the trading station?" Day stared at the communication screen in disbelief. After witnessing the most devastating display of military power in recorded history, Jinwoo was acting like nothing had happened. "Jinwoo, what just occurred here? Just a small misunderstanding with some local authorities? Nothing to worry about. These things happen when you're working in frontier space." The human convoy resumed its journey toward the neutral trading station. Sol's Pride took its position in the formation, looking exactly like the ramshackle salvage vessel it had appeared to be originally. Only now, the other human captains understood that appearances could be very deceiving. As they traveled, D found himself looking at every other ship they encountered with new eyes. That cargo hauler with the slightly unusual engine signature. Was it really carrying grain, or was it another disguised warship? That passenger liner with the experienced-looking captain? Were those really civilians aboard, or were they military? War Admiral Velthar stared at Jinwoo with growing horror. The human no longer looked like a nervous salvage operator. His posture was straight and confident. His eyes were cold and calculating. When he spoke, his voice carried absolute authority. "War Admiral, you have 10 seconds to order your fleet to withdraw from this system. This is your only opportunity to avoid complete destruction." Velthar's pride would not allow retreat. The idea that one human could threaten 47 warships was insane. "You're bluffing. One ship cannot defeat an entire battle fleet. 5 seconds, kill him." Velthar shouted to his guards. The Alterian soldiers raised their weapons, but before they could fire, every light on the flagship went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing the bridge in red light, but the damage was done. That moment of darkness, Jinwoo had moved. When the lights returned, Jinwoo stood behind Velthar's command chair. The Alterian guards were unconscious on the floor, their weapons scattered. The human held a small device that hummed with energy. "Time's up," Jinwoo said quietly. He pressed a button on the device. Throughout the Alterian fleet, sleeping systems awakened. On New Busan, Captain Day watched his tactical display in shock. The small dot that represented Sol's Pride was changing. The energy signature was growing stronger, much stronger. What had appeared to be a tiny salvage vessel was now showing power readings that rivaled the largest ships in the Alterian fleet. "Captain," Bora gasped, "look at Jinwoo's ship." Through the main window, they could see Sol's Pride in the distance. The small vessel was transforming. Hull sections were extending outward, revealing hidden compartments. Weapon arrays were emerging from concealed ports. The ship was becoming larger and more threatening with each passing second. "That's not possible," Hyunsik whispered over the communication channel, but it was happening. Sol's Pride was revealing its true form, a sleek, deadly warship unlike anything the human captains had ever seen. Its hull was dark and angular, designed to absorb sensor scans and deflect energy weapons. Along its sides, weapon ports glowed with contained energy. "This is Captain Jin Woo of the Terran Federation Special Operations vessel Soul's Pride," came his voice over all communication channels. The friendly, casual tone was gone, replaced by military precision. "All Altarian vessels will power down weapons and prepare to withdraw from this system immediately." War Admiral Velthar's response came from the flagship's communication system, broadcast to the entire fleet. "All ships, concentrate fire on the human vessel. Destroy it now." What followed was the most devastating display of firepower the human convoy had ever witnessed. 46 Altarian warships opened fire simultaneously. Plasma beams, particle cannons, and energy torpedoes converged on Soul's Pride in a barrage that could have vaporized a small moon. The space around Jin Woo's ship erupted in brilliant explosions. Energy discharges lit up the darkness like an artificial star. The attack was so intense that the other human ships had to adjust their viewing filters to avoid being blinded. When the weapons fire finally stopped, everyone expected to see empty space where Soul's Pride had been. Instead, the human warship hung motionless in the center of a glowing energy field. Its defensive shields had absorbed the entire attack without taking any damage at all. "Impossible," So Young breathed. "Their weapons aren't even scratching him," Day said in amazement. Jinwoo's voice came over the communication system again, still calm and professional. "Altarian fleet, you were warned. Now you will face the consequences." Soul's Pride began to move. Not the slow, careful movement of a cargo hauler, but the swift, deadly grace of a predator. The ship accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for its size, weaving between the Altarian vessels like a dancer. The first Altarian ship to die was the destroyer Blade of Honor. Soul's Pride fired a single beam of coherent energy that passed through the destroyer's shields as if they weren't there. The beam struck the ship's power core, and the massive vessel simply vanished in a flash of white light. The second target was the cruiser Death's Edge. This time, Jinwoo used different weapons, projectiles that seemed to phase in and out of normal space, appearing inside the cruiser's hull and detonating simultaneously throughout the ship. The cruiser broke apart from within, its hull splitting open like a cracked egg. "All ships, evasive maneuvers," Velthar ordered desperately. "Concentrate fire, bring it down." But the Altarian fleet's weapons were useless against Soul's Pride. The human ship's shields absorbed every attack, while its own weapons cut through Altarian defenses like they were made of paper. Ship after ship fell to Jinwoo's assault, each one destroyed by a different type of weapon that the Altarians had never seen before. The battleship Eternal Victory tried to ram Soul's Pride, using its massive bulk as a weapon. Jinwoo simply flew straight through it, his ship's hull somehow becoming intangible long enough to pass through the Altarian vessel. As Soul's Pride emerged from the other side, the battleship exploded behind it. Captain Day watched in stunned silence as the most powerful fleet in Altarian space was systematically destroyed by a single human vessel. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes earlier were being eliminated with casual efficiency. "How is this possible?" Bora whispered. "I don't know," Day replied. "But I'm starting to understand why Jinwoo seemed so calm." The slaughter continued, for exactly 18 minutes. Soul's Pride moved through the Altarian formation like death itself, leaving nothing but debris in its wake. Some ships tried to flee, but they were too slow and too damaged to escape. Others attempted to surrender, but Jinwoo ignored their transmissions. The human warship's weapons seemed limitless. Energy beams that burned through the strongest armor, missiles that could track targets through hyperspace, electromagnetic pulses that shut down entire vessels instantly, gravity weapons that crushed ships from within. Each attack was perfectly calculated to neutralize threats with minimal waste. By the end, 46 Altarian warships had been reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Only one vessel remained intact, War Admiral Velthar's flagship. It hung dead in space, all systems offline, crew unconscious from emergency stasis fields. Soul's Pride approached the flagship slowly, its weapons still charged but not firing. The transformed vessel was magnificent and terrifying, a perfect fusion of advanced technology and deadly purpose. War Admiral Velthar, Jinwoo's voice came over the communication system. You're the only survivor of your fleet. I trust you're beginning to understand the situation. Inside the flagship, Velthar stood alone on his bridge. His crew was unconscious, overcome by some kind of neural field that had swept through the ship. Only he remained awake, forced to witness the complete destruction of his command. "What are you?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "I'm what happens when you threaten human civilians," Jinwoo replied. "Your people have spent years studying our merchant vessels and colony ships. You thought you understood our capabilities. You were wrong. This technology, it's impossible. How can humans have developed weapons like this? We've been preparing for this conversation for a long time, War Admiral. Every species in the galaxy makes the same mistake. You see our traders and explorers, and you assume that's all we are. You never consider that we might be hiding our true strength." Through the flagship's damaged sensors, Velthar could see the debris field that had once been his proud fleet. Thousands of his people were dead, killed by weapons he couldn't even comprehend. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to deliver a message to the Alterian government, and I want you to deliver it very carefully, because your species' survival may depend on how well you remember every word." Velthar nodded slowly. He had no choice but to listen. "Good," Jinwoo said. "Then let me explain exactly what just happened here, and what it means for the future of Alterian-human relations." Strange things began happening across the Alterian fleet, small problems that seemed unimportant at first. On the destroyer Velkon's Fury, the navigation system started showing incorrect coordinates. The weapons cruiser Death's Whisper experienced minor power fluctuations in its shield generators. The battleship Eternal Victory had communication static that came and went randomly. Captain Day noticed it first. Bo-Ra was monitoring communication channels when she picked up fragments of Alterian technical reports. "Captain, listen to this," she said, adjusting her equipment to get a clearer signal. Through the static came alien voices speaking in their native language. The translation system worked poorly with technical terms, but the meaning was clear enough. The Alterian ships were experiencing system problems. Power coupling unstable in Sector 7. Navigation drift increasing. Targeting computers showing intermittent errors. "They're having technical difficulties," Bo-Ra said with surprise. So Young's voice came over the group channel. "Good. Maybe their ships will break down and we can escape." But Hyunsik sounded worried. "If their ships are malfunctioning, they might attack us immediately instead of waiting for the deadline. Damaged predators are the most dangerous." Day studied the tactical display. The Alterian formation remained steady, with all 47 ships maintaining their positions around the human convoy. But now he could see subtle changes. Some ships were adjusting their positions slightly, as if compensating for navigation errors. Others were running diagnostic cycles on their weapon systems. "Jinwoo," he called over the communication channel. "Are you seeing any of this from the flagship?" There was a pause before Jinwoo answered. His voice sounded distracted. "Seeing what, Captain?" "The Alterians are having technical problems across their fleet. System failures, power issues, navigation errors. Might be solar interference. This system's star has been producing unusual magnetic fields lately." That was a reasonable explanation, but something about Jinwoo's tone bothered Day. The salvage operator sounded like he was paying attention to something else entirely. On the flagship bridge, War Admiral Velthar was growing frustrated. His technical officers kept reporting minor problems throughout the fleet. Nothing serious individually, but the number of small failures was unusual. "Admiral," his communications officer reported, "the cruiser Starkiller is requesting permission to run full diagnostics. Their targeting systems are showing accuracy errors." "Granted. What about the other ships?" "Similar requests from 12 other vessels, sir. They're all experiencing minor technical difficulties." Velthar's claws clicked against his command chair. "All of them started having problems at the same time?" "Within the last 15 minutes, yes, sir." The War Admiral looked at Jinwoo, who was still explaining the locations of various resource deposits. The human seemed completely focused on his presentation, occasionally pointing to different areas of the star map. But Velthar's military instincts were beginning to warn him that something was wrong. "Human," he interrupted. "Your convoy arrived in our space approximately 30 minutes ago." Jinwoo nodded. "That sounds right. Time passes quickly when you're worried about survival. And these technical problems started 15 minutes ago, just after your ship joined the convoy formation. Coincidence, I suppose. Space is full of unexpected phenomena." But Velthar was no longer convinced it was coincidence. "Chief Engineer, run a complete scan of the human vessel in our docking bay. I want to know exactly what kind of technology they're carrying." The scan results came back within minutes, and they were disturbing. The human ship contained systems that the Alterian engineers didn't recognize, power conduits that seemed to serve no obvious purpose, computer networks that were far more complex than anything a salvage vessel should need. And most troubling of all, the ship was actively transmitting data on multiple encrypted frequencies. "Admiral," the chief engineer reported privately, "that ship is conducting systematic intelligence gathering. Every system in our fleet is being scanned and analyzed in real time." Velthar felt a chill run down his spine. "Are you certain?" "Absolutely. The transmissions are disguised as normal engine noise, but they're actually carrying enormous amounts of data. Structural analyses, weapons capabilities, shield frequencies, command protocols, everything." The War Admiral looked at Jinwoo with new understanding. The nervous salvage operator was gone, replaced by someone who seemed much more professional. The human's posture had changed subtly. His eyes were more alert, constantly scanning the bridge and noting the positions of every Alterian present. "You're not a salvage operator," Velthar said slowly. Jinwoo smiled, and it was not the friendly expression he had shown earlier. "No, War Admiral, I'm not." "What are you?" Someone who was hoping this conversation would end differently. Alarms started sounding throughout the flagship. In the fleet around them, more ships were reporting system failures, but now the problems were becoming more serious. Weapons that wouldn't charge properly, shields that flickered and failed, navigation systems that couldn't maintain stable readings. "Admiral," the tactical officer called out. "Multiple ships are reporting major malfunctions. The destroyer Blade of Honor has lost primary power. The cruiser Death's Edge has suffered complete shield failure." Velthar stood up from his command chair, his full height making him tower over Jinwoo. "What are you doing to my ships?" "Nothing they didn't do to themselves. Your engineers are very thorough when they scan unknown vessels. Unfortunately for you, my ship's computers are designed to scan back. Every probe your people sent was turned into a pathway for data collection and system analysis. That's impossible. Our security protocols would prevent any external access." Jinwoo shrugged. "Your security protocols are 15 years out of date. Modern human technology is a bit more advanced than you realized." The bridge erupted in activity as more reports came in. Nearly half the Alterian fleet was experiencing critical system failures. Ships that had been ready for battle minutes earlier were now struggling to maintain basic functions. On New Busan, Captain Day watched in amazement as the tactical display showed the Alterian formation falling apart. Ships were dropping out of attack position, their threat indicators changing from red to yellow as their weapons went offline. "What's happening to them?" Bora asked. "I don't know, but I don't think it's solar interference." So Young's voice came over the communication channel, excited and confused. "Day, are you seeing this? The Alterians are practically dead in space. Half their ships can't even maintain formation." "Jinwoo," Day called. "What's your status?" "Everything's fine, Captain. Just finishing up my business here." But Day could hear sounds of commotion in the background, alarms, shouting voices, the noise of a ship's crew dealing with an emergency. War Admiral Velthar drew his sidearm, a plasma pistol designed to kill humans instantly. "You will order your ship to stop whatever it's doing to my fleet." Jinwoo looked at the weapon without any sign of fear. "I'm afraid that's not possible, War Admiral. The process is automatic now. Your ship's computers are being systematically compromised and shut down. Then you will die. Maybe. But it won't change anything. My ship doesn't need me to complete its mission." Velthar felt something he had never experienced before. Genuine fear of a human. This was not the primitive, helpless species his people had always believed humans to be. This was something else entirely. "What are you?" he asked again. "I'm Captain Jin Woo of the Terran Federation Special Operations Command. And you, War Admiral, just made a very serious mistake." The name meant nothing to Velthar, but the tone sent ice through his blood. This human was not afraid, not desperate, not pleading for his life. He was calm, professional, and completely confident. "Special operations? We're the people your intelligence services don't know about. The ships that don't appear on any registry. The weapons systems your spies have never seen. We're humanity's insurance policy against species that mistake our restraint for weakness." Around the flagship, the Alterian fleet was in chaos. Ships that had been ready to destroy the human convoy were now barely functional. Their sophisticated weapons were offline, their shields were down, and their navigation systems were providing false readings that made it dangerous to move. "This is impossible," Velthar whispered. "Your people have been monitoring human space for years," Jinwoo continued. "You've seen our merchant ships, our colony vessels, our exploration craft. You think you understand our capabilities, but you've never seen what we keep hidden." On his portable display, Jinwoo showed Velthar a new image. It wasn't a star map anymore. It was a complete tactical analysis of the Alterian fleet, showing every weakness, every vulnerability, every system that was now under human control. 47 ships, Jinwoo said casually. 12,000 crew members, all of them now completely helpless. The War Admiral looked around his bridge. His officers were frantically trying to regain control of their systems, but nothing was working properly. Even the flagship, the pride of the Alterian fleet, was beginning to show signs of system failure. "What do you want?" Velthar asked. Jinwoo smiled again, but this time it was cold and dangerous. "I want you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you.